Good afternoon. Thank you for being with us today. I appreciate it. I'm very excited about this panel and what we're about to discuss. I know that AI has been the topic of the day for the last several years, especially here at VivaTech, where innovation is happening live. So I'm very excited to have with me an extraordinary group of panelists that are going to put some of our concerns about the future of the workforce, future of labor, and AGI next sort of to peace. So I wanted to begin with a little bit of a context on what we're going to be talking about today. Obviously, everyone is aware we're living sort of in this revolution, not of machines replacing humans, but of machines expanding what is possible for humans to do. So I wanted to make sure to give a little bit of context about that, because as probably a non-tech person, a little bit of a fuzzy person in the liberal arts, I always think of AI in a different way. I think of it not as artificial intelligence, but as augmented intelligence. Meaning, what is it going to do for me in order to expand the work that I'm doing? So when we think about how we're going to reshape work, hire, and lead in the future, keep that human aspect in mind. And then when it comes to AGI, which was once kind of a distant topic, now it's become a mainstream sort of topic for boardrooms. And so that's also an interesting part of what I would like to talk a little bit more with you guys today. So the key question we're going to try to answer today is, how do we shape the change that's coming to empower people and not sideline them? So I'm very excited to have you all here. And it's a very serious panel. We're going to have some very serious questions. But let's start with a little bit of a fun question first, just to get us warmed up. I asked you all when I first talked to you, what was your first job? Because what I wanted to do growing up versus what I did for the first time as a job and ended up doing later on 20 years ago changed dramatically. And it's now still changing. I'm not going to reveal this, not about me, so I don't want to talk about me, but I want to go down the line here and just tell me what was your first job and what you end up doing afterwards. Tarja, let's start with you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for being great to be here. My name is Tarja Stevens, and I'm a founder of AI Opportunity Agency, and we are an advisory group for advising CEOs and executives on the AI transformation. My first job was actually back in Finland. So this is where I'm from, and this was over 3 decades ago. I was in a garden, so plants and flowers, and let me tell you, it has not changed. AI has not changed that at all. I was there last year, so that was my first job.
Thank you, Tarja. So not everything is automated yet. Corinne.
Hi. Hello, everyone. Well, my first job is quite different from what I'm doing now, but as a connection. I was a buyer. I was buying parts for X-ray tubes in the healthcare industry. And I was doing this because, well, it was for General Electric and was saying, well, we're bringing good things to life. And that was a mission. So I always thought I had a mission somewhere. And I'm working for a big tech company, which mission is to empower everybody on the planet to achieve more. I think this story of the connection of the mission, always technology, but to get something done for people, for society, that's kind of the connection I see when I make the bridge.
I love how humble you are, and that little company is Microsoft. Thank you, Corinne. Sebastian.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Sebastian. I'm a senior partner with McKinsey. And guess what? 20 years ago, I started, as a consultant as well. So I'm still one. But things have been changing that much in 20 years. If I reflect back 20 years ago, we were spending 80% of our time in gathering and analyzing data. I think today it's actually less than 20 or 30%, and the most of what we do today is to really think about what to do with those insights and how we translate insights into business performance. And I think the topic of today will be at the very core of that, because there is no impact without the human component. So I must admit that it was 2 very interesting decades, and tech has completely changed our profession.
Thank you so much. And Timothy?
Yeah, hi everyone. It's great to be here. I'm Timothy Young, CEO of Jasper AI. About 20 years ago, in my first job, I was doing something very similar as a software engineer. I think today it's completely different. Even I still code at Jasper, and I'm probably 10 to 20x, more productive today. And I think that's across all of my software engineering teams. And 20 years ago, as a new engineer, it took months to land probably my first code. It took years to really be mentored by others. And when I see new college grads join our company today, they're shipping their first lines of code usually within a couple days. And they're using agentic platforms to help them do that. So it's completely transformed the industry.
Fascinating. So we all started somewhere, and then our jobs became more complicated, but also a little bit easier with the tools that we found along the way. So I'm going to mix it up a little bit here, but I'm going to start with Sebastian first. You work across so many industries, and this is you're kind of a jack of all trades in that sense. Which sectors do you believe are now most prepared for the AI-driven workforce that's coming up?
So we are clearly at a moment where AI has entered every boardroom. You said it, every executive committee room. But when you reflect a little bit on where we are, and we talked about that a year ago, we have a number of companies, we have done a lot of things, but the magnitude or the scale of the impact is not there yet. And when, back to your question, some sectors are naturally much more prepared to the AI revolution. If you think about, techno and software, as you said, financial services, professional services, retail, e-commerce, healthcare and life science, all the sectors where you have more data availability, a greater digital maturity, more customer interactions, and of course, more industrialized processes. And at the other end of the spectrum, if you think about sectors like construction, agriculture, or logistics, of course, they will be less impacted. But I think ultimately, and that's probably the purpose of that panel, what will matter is the true ability to really embed AI in the business transformation. So far, we've seen automation of bits and pieces of processes. I think with AGI, we can completely transform the business processes, and this is not just a sidecar tool. And this is where AGI can make the difference. But to get there, the connection between the business priorities, the tech, and we will talk about that, but the human component will be absolutely key. Because unlocking this potential, whatever the industry, unlocking the potential will require to train the workforce, to upskill, to reskill, and to redeploy ultimately the human component where it matters. Because we will need it across all of those industries, but this is where you can do that. And the only way, and that will be my last message, the only way to do it is not to consider AI as a collection of projects, but to make it absolutely front and center of your strategy.
And so to make that connection and to make it front and center of human strategy, I think you need leaders to be completely attuned with what's coming. So for Corinne, for you, I had, my question for you is, and as a leader to leader, how would you advise those leaders that are navigating this opportunity, how to deploy this at a scale and make sure that their workforces are safe and ready?
Well, as you can imagine, we've been experiencing now a lot of this, right? And about 2 years ago, we saw AI in the workplace, and it did change the workplace. And now we see with the arrival of agents, AI in action in terms of the processes. So very different, and it's a quantum leap as well. I would say, what's important is, to go through the 3 steps. The first one is that you need to put AI in the hands of everyone. It is a revolution of the workforce. It is not for happy few. So everyone needs to master this technology. A little bit like you got your smartphone, Now no one is asking why you get your smartphone and to do what. So I think, the part of acculturation for the leaders gets in the hands of everyone. 75% of the worldwide workers today come to work with AI. AI tool maybe from external, but they get the AI tool. So that's the first step. Because it's going to enhance your individual productivity, unleash your creativity, get people to work on what matters in their work. So that's the first part. The second step is that need to think about, what are the business processes you want to tackle? Because with the agents now, you're going to have both humans and agents collaborating. It's not only, your assistant, but it's going to be someone who's going to help you to innovate, take actions, and really, automatize some of the key processes of the company and get your productivity, productivity or bottom line or top line. There are many examples of that. You have 3 categories of agents today. You have the simple agents, which are the conversation, chatbot type. You ask a question, you get an answer. Then you do have agents, the second category, they take action. You have a problem with your computer, you open a ticket, the agent is going to open the ticket, ask the question, and get you the answer. And then you have complex agentic, autonomous agent rather than complex, and they work together on a process flow, from the order to the manufacturing to the cash, so you get through a complete process. So that's what's happening now. So that's the second step, get you to 3 business processes and look at what you want to do to connect it with your strategy. The third one is one which is important as well, is the innovation piece. So how do you get AI in your product, embedded in your product, in your services? And how do you get AI to create new materials, new molecules? That's a research piece. This is the innovation piece, which is important as well. But this is a journey. This is not a sprint. This is a marathon. You need to get through all the steps, every one, business processes, innovation. That would be my recommendation.
That is a masterclass, not just a simple advice. Thank you, Corinne. I wanted to take this opportunity to ask you, Tarja, to get there, we need a specific skill set, and you work in the human part of AI as well. So I wanted to ask you about, you talk about emotional intelligence, adaptability as future superpowers. So I wanted to know, how do you think we train leaders to value and build in these teams with those 2 in mind?
No, that's a great question, and kind of bridging what was discussed is that the past years, I think the past 2 years, what we have seen is that the focus within organizations has been very technology driven. What are the technology skills? What are the AI skills? How can we build the AI fluency and literacy for everyone, which is that foundational knowledge from the intern all the way to the boardroom, and rightly so. That is absolutely foundational. However, now this year, especially what we have seen is that now equally the conversation has started to be, what are the human skills? What are the leadership skills? Like you mentioned, emotional intelligence. We have the critical thinking, compassion, and really leaders are now analyzing and assessing how we can get all the employees that they're willing to take this new way of working. Are they motivated? And also, if they're willing, are they able to do it? Do we have all the resources, the tools, the infrastructure to support that? So with that said, I always say there's like a 3 approaches that role modeling starting from the leadership, that we embed that in every day what we do. And then we need to have these conversations in every day, in every department, so the communication is so critical right now. And rewarding and really acknowledging that everyone who's trying these new tools, like you said, everybody should be doing it. And with that, we start little by little championing that change and these new skills as well.
So important to talk about the new skill set, and it's not at all what even a few years ago we were talking about. So on the subject of skill sets, I wanted to go back to you, Timothy. Jasper is such an interesting company. I looked into it because it helps people do creative work more efficiently. And some of the criticism for AI has been, is it going to take over, AI? Is AI going to take over creativity? Are we going to be more numb and not creative and not cool, doing the cool things anymore ourselves? So I'm curious about how you feel we're able to ensure that AI is not a crutch, but it's what I was talking about earlier. It augments what we already do well.
Yeah, I think it's extremely important to think about how the applications you're using are built and who's building them. For us at Jasper, our platform is built to amplify human potential and ambition and not replace it. We feel very strongly, particularly about creative work, that LLMs can get you in many cases maybe 80% of the way there, but that final 20% of the work is incredibly important. It's, for marketers, It's not just creativity, it's about building human connection, it's about having empathy. And so what we really push our customers to do is think about human and AI working together in a symbiotic relationship, not as using Jasper as a tool or an application, but to think about it as a true partner. Even when I'm using Jasper to write internal communications, I'm signing off on them as written by me and Jasper, or me and ChatGPT, right? And I'm modeling that to the organization. And so what we help customers do is take their private marketing playbook, their private marketing data, their brand voice, right, their visual styles, and make sure that all the LLMs they're using can think, write, and work with their employees in the language of their business. And I think it's a really important psychological mind shift for the products that are using to help and embody into the employees.
Such an interesting, I think you have something to say, yes?
I just wanted to build on that, Tim. I love that. I just want to share one number and one anecdote. In terms of number, the magnitude of what we are talking about, our research, we think that by 2030, roughly 30 to 40% of the task could be automated. This is the magnitude, 30 to 40. That means in Europe, this is 15 million job transition, 15 million. And I think the magnitude of what you are describing, will require a lot of things along, teaching everyone, learning everyone. And the anecdote is some of the pioneering companies, they don't have an org chart anymore, the traditional org chart. They have the org chart that with the employees, but they have also the number of agents deployed in the org chart. So when you look at the org chart, it's a combination of people and agents together, exactly as you were describing. And I think that gives a little bit the direction of travel we're going to.
I know, Sebastian, I was going to ask you next, because on this reskilling, upskilling, lifelong learning debate we're having, it's not even a debate. We're telling everybody learning is your job for the rest of your life, right? So is reskilling the new HR performance now?
Yeah, probably reskilling. I would say dynamic reskilling. I mean, a year ago we didn't talk that much about AGI. What are we going to talk about in 3 or 5 years? Corinne, you will know that probably much better than I do. But I think this notion of having a continuous learning muscle in the organization will be very important because we don't know. I mean, what we know is that the speed probably has never been that slow. It's going to continue accelerating. So yes, you need that. And this is why you need to connect much more, I would say, what we call the strategic workforce planning to the business agenda. And this muscle will be needed. And it's not just an HR game. I think it's a business or a strategy game. And HR will be more the function. The HR function will be more an enabler to that. So yes, I think what the most successful companies in the world, even if you take, very traditional one, Walmart, AT&T in the US, they have been fantastically quick at, retraining, based on the new technology moves, retraining their workforce. So yes, that will become the name of the game.
That's a very interesting thing to me, because now more than ever, and this we've discussed across many other discussions here at VivaTech, the role of education in all of this. But Corinne, I'm curious about how you're approaching this theme of the reskilling through your vantage point.
Well, I'm an optimist realist. So I think, the realism is that there's massive change in terms, of the jobs of the future. And there's a massive workflows planning to be done, massive. I don't think people realize at which point, every job is going to be impacted and everybody needs to be trained. And it's continuous learning, as you said. Not only continuous learning, it's personalized learning. So I think, this is the first thing to tackle in every company, every organization, everywhere. But I'm an optimist because I said for the first time, technology is accessible. You don't need to get a PhD to create an agent. I don't have a science PhD, by the way. So you can, everybody have access to this technology because this is natural language. So this is a great, great opportunity. Well, as a company, I think, like everyone, we have a massive responsibility. This is good opportunity, but this is responsibility as well in terms of making sure everybody has access. So we did announce 2 years ago at Choose France big learning program, training 1 million people. We are more than 400,000 people trained. making sure, we address all audiences, all audience. So we have a platform where you can find 200 content of free learning at your space, personalized. So that's a platform of learning. I've been working with, France Travail, the job agency, to train the job seekers, help them. And with very nice, calendar that we've been building with a French startup, which is super nice and gets the journey of, your training. We've been working as well with students. So we are addressing, you need to address everyone because this is the first thing ready to be done. So we do this, but every company needs to do this because if you don't do this for society, students, job seekers, not only you're going to have rejection of technology, but you will not have the adoption, not the speed, and it's a big missed opportunity.
Right.
So I'm urging every company, get your workforce planning right now.
And I think that's such an important part of the discussion when we talk about, closing the skills gap. Even 10 years ago, when we talked about closing the skills gap, we were talking about we needed more people to do science, engineering, technology, math. Now it's inverted. We need people to have ethics and understand values and have critical thinking.
It's a different learning.
Right.
Now you get Wikipedia in your pocket. In the other pocket, you have a financial analyst.
Yes.
And it's kind of an opportunity to have the knowledge with you, but it's different skills you need to learn, right? I'm sure you can testify.
I was just going to say, when we work with, large enterprises where I think they're at the frontier, they're doing three things with their employees, which I would categorize as really back to basics. The first thing that they're doing, even with individual contributors, frontline employees, is they're teaching basic management skills. And they're doing this because in the near future, every employee will be a manager, maybe not of other people, but of agents. The second thing is, how do you communicate with those agents? It's through writing. At Dropbox, when I was there, we shifted completely to a memo written culture. No more presentations. So every employee, in order to communicate, had to write long memos. And in watching 3,000 employees make that transition, who are some of the best educated, team in the world, incredibly difficult transition for them. And if you think about how we communicate with agents, you have to be able to write really well. They're probabilistic, so subtle shifts in the quality of your writing really have magnitudes of impact in their output. And then I think the third thing they're doing, these organizations are helping employees understand strategy. Most employees really understand how to execute, how to understand tactics. But if you think about knowledge work, breaking it down really simply, it's what to do, how to do it, and then doing the work. LLMs and agents will do the work, and they know how to do it, but what to do and how it attaches to the company strategy is what you really need to help every employee understand in order to be successful over the next 10 years.
When it comes to this skills discussion, I'm a big fan of demystifying what it really means, right? So you talk to several leaders and they think it is about teaching the workforce more technology skills, right? So Tarja, you work in this space quite a bit and you advise CEOs and the direction of how to close the skills gap. We identify technology might not be it. It's time for the fuzzies to shine, right? If you have a liberal arts degree, this is your time. But what else is there, in terms of organizational readiness? What do you think?
No, that's a great question. And I think what we have seen is that truly the gap, where is that knowledge gap right now? And the readiness, like you said, the organizational readiness, is it the technology gap or is it the funding gap? Is it the employees or is it the leadership? And we can kind of say that it is not the technology. Like we had discussed, you can start using AI, every single one of us right now today. And also the funding, over 90% of the organizations right now are saying they are considerably increasing funding in AI in the coming next 3 years. So funding is there. And what we see also that employees more and more, they're raising their hand and saying, I want to learn more. The motivation is there, the eagerness to learn. So it kind of comes, what we have seen is that organizational readiness that starts truly, the gap is that leadership. How can I do it? Most leaders say that, yes, we are implementing AI within our operations and doing it, but only few are saying we are comfortable how to do it. And that's where we need that personalized, and kind of new ways of learning, new ways of growing, new ways of leading, what we say, that reinventing everything, and building those new foundations now that the blueprint is human-led and AI operated. And I come from the lean background, so over a decade I champion change in lean methodologies, and we always say lean way of doing, and I think right now we need to kind of reinvent the new mindset of AI way of doing. And that's what I many times say, that the AI is not just a skill set, but it's a new mindset that leaders need to embed, and then it starts really showing example for the teams, and really important that middle managers that are tangibly really working, like you said, the managers in every day using that AI.
Thank you, Tarja. You know, I was thinking about this, that there is a little bit of a tension between the speed within which an organization adopts AI, but then the actual sustainability and like teaching it to the workforce. So maybe, Corinne, you can come back in and list a little bit, you know, how do you manage that tension so that you can go super fast, supersonic fast in adopting AI, but at the same time not leaving your workforce behind?
Yeah. Well, again, I think it gets to get AI in the hands of everyone. And this is, you know, the chat. I mean, using the capability of the chat and making sure everybody can get it. So they see, I mean, how much it does for their work. But I think what's important is that you start with simple things as well. I mean, you have the large business cases, but you need to start also with the simple thing, which means you function. I mean, it fundamentally, I mean, AI is changing what we call the production capacity. I mean, every system, I have some kind of the same background in Lean, in supply chain, Six Sigma, all of this. It does change everything, you know? I mean, the production system is changing. So if you want your workforce to embark, you need to make it real for them. An HR system is a production system. How do you use AI in that, you know, context? How do you have simple use case which makes your life better? And then you go back to really you like to do, you know, talk to people, develop people, hire people, et cetera, et cetera. So that's, I think each function has to consider it in terms of the production system. So fundamentally, I mean, we talk about, you know, changing the capacity and different, I agree with you, it's a different organization. This is what we call, you know, the frontier firms. They are so different than what we know now. You're going to collaborate with agents, you will have agents and humans with different processes, different production systems. But your capacity is going to be huge. Imagine, I mean, you can have more agents and the scarcity of some jobs and looking for talents, I mean, can be unlimited capacity.
Right. You know, Sebastian, I wanted to ask you next, which industry, you work across so many of them, you kind of have a finger on the pulse of a lot of things. Which industry do you think is doing it just right and could create a blueprint right now? Who's your favorite?
I'm going to make some enemies here. Actually, I'm not sure there is one. I think I mentioned tech because honestly, they are AI native somehow, and I think the way they have been, you know, transforming themselves has been very impressive because they were, of course, you know, at the very beginning of the journey. But I've seen some of them, you know, in banking, in or other financial services, doing great things as well. However, I'm not sure we have seen yet what we are describing in this panel, which is how do you fully transform, you know, the entire organization, starting from the top and making sure that every single employee, you know, is now embedding AI as a way of working. This is yet to come, in my view. But if I had to place a bet, this will come from tech and software first.
Okay, so you didn't take my bait. Good job. But the other part of the conversation is obviously to do this efficiently and well and to protect workers' rights because there is a lot of anxiety around replacement of human labor. So how do we answer that anxiety? We have to address it. Very recently, we've had some very bombastic interviews from the tech sector saying, get ready for the one-person multi-million-dollar company, your multinational company. Is that... How do you answer that? And maybe this is a question for everybody, kind of take a turn. Who wants to be the first victim?
I can go. I think, we've seen a change of paradigm in 2 years. I think when we were talking about AI 2 years ago, it was about automating, part of the processes, with a huge risk of replacing human. I think with AGI, we've seen a very strong change of the narrative. We talk about client experience, employee engagement, making your life much more interesting at work. You're going to change job many times, or let's put it this way. You can keep the same job, but the way you're going to do it in the next decade will change many times. And I think the narrative is much more positive now. And we've seen that, into companies where they have embedded AI as part of the change management and the strategy, as I was saying. And I think, we see that more and more. Yes, some of the jobs of today will disappear, but it's our core belief that we are going to see many new jobs appearing. We don't know exactly where the balance will be in 5 years, in 10 years, but we are, I'm also an optimistic. I'm pretty sure we will, create new jobs and new ways of using AI to have more interesting jobs, but it doesn't mean less jobs overall.
And to be honest, I can complement what he says. Well, you talk about the one-person company, billions. I mean, that you are kind of always have outliers. The reality is that the technology is augmenting human as well. If you take the example of all the industry, activities where you need people, and you need even more people in terms of building relationship, the healthcare system. Is a super good example. When you see, doctors spending 70% of their time on administrative tasks, and the scarcity, we have in the world, in the healthcare system. The hope is that healthcare is going to be accessible to everyone in every country of the world, because there are always parts that you can automatize, so the doctors can do what they have supposed to do, is to talk to you as a patient, to help you to get through what you are living, and so on and so forth. Healthcare, every activity where you have service, human touch, all the social activities, there are a ton of jobs actually. Where you augment people and they go back to what they like. I was discussing yesterday, just a small anecdote, with somebody, from our job seeking agency, and they use agents. And she told me, she joined that, activity because she loved to recruit people and help people to find jobs. And she said she's so pleased to have an agent, to sort out the curriculum vitae, do all the administrative tasks, because then she can help the person looking for a job to be prepared for an interview. And she said, I joined for that. I couldn't do that, and now I can do it. And I like the story because I thought it was, very representative at augmenting people on really what they want to do. And there are thousands of stories like that.
I think the stories actually really humanize this technology and kind of help with that anxiety. I want to make sure I give everyone a chance. Did you want to say something, Timothy?
Yeah, I think the broader industry and most organizations that are deploying it have focused really on efficiency, right? How can this make us more efficient? But when we work with customers at Jasper and we sit down with a workshop, the first question we ask them is, if you look at your business over the last 5 years, what is a dream of yours? What is something that you've always wanted to do but has been impossible, right? Not for efficiency's sake, but you haven't been able to get the scale. You haven't been able to get the resources. And let's focus on those opportunities. Because I think that what you want to do in this age is really unlock the human potential inside of the employees. And I think though, when you look at a lot of job roles today, even in marketing and creative teams, it's like 20% creative and 80% very mechanical and rote. And if you offload that 80%, right? Part of it is, okay, I've created an ad and now I need to make 50 variations. So I spend a week making all those variations, right? But if you think about it, you can offload all the variation work to a platform like Jasper, and then you can go back and start thinking about the next strategic asset you want to make. You can actually go and advocate for your campaign or your program internally in the organization. So it's all about creating leverage for employees and helping them become more human and less machine in their jobs. And I think we're going to see a lot happier employees and employees that are constantly learning. And I think employees, all through the org chart are going to have much broader scope in their roles than they've ever had before. So I'm very optimistic in the partnership and not the replacement angle, because that's what we're seeing with customers today.
So 3 glasses half full. How about you, Tarja?
No, I'm absolutely excited. The opportunity, AI opportunity it is, as many challenges are coming as well. But really, I like when we talk about the personalized learning, because every one of us is seeing it differently. And rather than thinking that AI is that automation tool, we more think of that as a thought partner. And now it's a little different. You start really challenging yourself, ask me questions. Am I really seeing the blind spot that there might be? So really that exploration and curiosity is so important. And many leaders ask like, well, where should I start? And I always give like a 3 C's: commit learning right now, commit talking about it, and connect with everyone within the organization and in your ecosystem, because we don't want to build this bridge alone. This bridge, employees are looking not only more knowledge, but they're looking for guidance and support. So this bridge is for all of us that we need to build it together, and then we just need to explore. So there's actually a day that I recommend many leaders saying that my day with AI as a business leader, where do I need to use my AI in the morning? Where do I need to use it in the afternoon and in the evening? And now it becomes part of my leadership role. And that's what it's all about, just exploring it every day.
Right. Thank you so much, Tarja. A question that I had maybe, and for a couple of you, maybe one of you can jump in first, is around public-private collaboration. Maybe in Europe the situation is a little bit different than in North America and also global majority countries, but AI adoption for multinationals varies when your context changes from country to country. How can governments, you're speaking directly now to legislators and regulators. How can you make an appeal to them saying, look, this technology is revolutionary, it's going to make quality of life better for the worker once they can use it to augment work? How do you see this working out where regulation is not stifling technology or innovation in a way that stops us from AI adoption? Any of you can jump in. Corinne, I'm looking at you.
I can start because, that's a good point. How do you balance innovation and regulation? I think there's a need for regulation. I mean, we don't fight regulation. You have to adapt for, every country, and there is some goodness in regulation, privacy, sovereignty. I mean, all of this, and as a company, we take care of that because it's important to people, it's important to government, and it's your legitimacy, to continue to grow and defend your competitiveness. Now, as you said, there's always a tipping point where innovation, is stopped by regulation. So this is where I think government needs to be very careful in terms of where do you stop. Because the reality, and I'm going to be a little bit blunt about this, is that doesn't really stop, the big companies, because big companies can adapt, and we always been adapting, and we always been kind of the first mover in this. But you might kill your startup ecosystem. And this is where it's dangerous. We're working with thousands of startups. There is a vibrant ecosystem in France, in Europe. And regulation is not always good for them because you don't have, those hundreds of people can take care of it. That's my view on this. I think government should look at a better balance in terms of making sure that the economy and the ecosystems can deal with it and can still grow because, they bring a lot.
Yeah, thank you, Corinne, for that context. Does anyone else want to jump in the question? No, this is not what you want to cover. So in our last few minutes, we talked about that there's so much positivity about AI not really replacing human labor. What would be your advice for the individual here in the room today and how they embrace AI in a way that's productive for them and becomes their companion? It makes them a better employee and also contributes to their quality of life. So there's the individual part. You can choose to answer that question, or the question of you're a leader and you're leading major company or organization. What is the best tip on how, if you haven't gotten started, to get started or to move forward? Or you can answer both. So maybe we can start this way and move along.
I think I answered the first one, which is the personal, so commit, connect, and really start creating and learning. But with the organization-wise, I see that there needs to be clarity, because so many initiatives could be happening, and many departments are saying, I want to start a new initiative. So clarity where to focus first, and get that alignment in the executive team that we are supporting this, and we are truly now jumping into testing it and making sure it goes well, because then we are championing that. So the clarity is a big one in a leadership within departments.
Thank you, Tarja. Corinne, you want to go next?
I would say accept this is a continuous learning. This is a marathon, as I said, and not a sprint. And I would say, well, get everybody trained. Get everybody to touch AI. And I would say then you pick up something big, which will impact the company, because everybody will realize it's important, and pick up something fast that you can have an immediate result with those two. And then you go.
Fantastic. Thank you, Corinne. Sebastian?
I will go for the second one as well. Don't treat AI as a collection of tech-driven projects. Put that at the core of what you do, and if you really want to capture the impact, you have to embed the human component as of day one. If not, you are going to pile layers of cost, and you will not get what you expect to deliver.
Wise words. Thank you. Timothy?
I think as a leader, you should be constantly building out a data corpus of context that you can use, with any AI system. So for me, for example, any communication, almost any activity I'm doing inside of Jasper or with customers, I am running that through Jasper or another LLM, everything. And so let's say I'm writing an internal communication to employees about an announcement or about clarity on a current program. I'll actually take my recent employee survey and all the information from that, and then you have the LLM work with me to reflect, hey, how does this communication address some of the key issues that employees have said recently? Am I missing something? How could I deepen the connection to employees? And I think just having it be a thought partner every day and modeling that to your team is the best thing you can do.
I think the modeling part has actually landed the plane for us on this panel. Thank you. Thank you all for your attention and being with us today. Thank you to our panel.